No, it is not a shell casing, mate. That is an unusual find.
I want to get that clay out of the hole. I want to find the tunnel. I didn't think of much else, to be honest.
On Oak Island, the team has found more than just old wood and mud. They found proof of gold. They found evidence of silver. They were on the very edge of a breakthrough when their hopes were washed away by a mysterious flood. Now, they must regroup and face the island's dark mystery once more. The promise in the ground. The excitement is a living thing on Oak Island. You can feel it the moment you cross the causeway. It's a feeling that has only grown stronger over the years, a constant hum of possibility. For Rick Lagina and the whole team, this year was supposed to be the year. The energy was higher than ever before. They were standing on the shoulders of all the searchers who had come before them, ready to take the final step. Their focus was a place that had become the heart of the entire operation, the garden shaft. This wasn't just a random hole in the ground, it was a structure believed to be from the 18th century, a piece of history itself. The team had worked with incredible determination to rebuild it, pushing down 100 feet into the earth. They weren't just digging, they were chasing a ghost made of gold and silver. Why this spot? Because all the signs pointed here.
It is some of the hardest work I've done in many years.
All right, break time.
Science, history, and legend all came together at the garden shaft. They had reason to believe this shaft was their direct path to the fabled Money Pit Vault, the very spot where a massive treasure was said to be hidden. Their belief was built on solid proof. First, they had found a strange collapsed tunnel just below the shaft. It was a secret passage, hidden for centuries. Second, and most important, was where that tunnel went. It pointed directly west into an area they called the Baby Blob. The name sounds funny, but what it represented was anything but. The Baby Blob was a hotspot. Tests on the groundwater from boreholes drilled in that area had come back with stunning results. The water was full of high traces of gold and silver. Not just a little bit, a lot. The metals were concentrated between 80 and 120 feet deep. It was a scientific bullseye telling them exactly where to look. With this knowledge, the team began a new phase. They started drilling horizontally, probing out from the garden shaft into the Baby Blob. Every turn of the drill was filled with hope. They were no longer searching blindly. They had a map drawn by science, a map that promised to lead them to a vast treasure. The air was thick with anticipation as the drill pushed further into the darkness inch by inch, getting closer to an answer that had been waiting for more than 2 centuries.
Well, here's the deal, Rick. You could be standing a couple feet above the tunnel we've been looking for at least 2 years. Right there.
Good, we are.
Okay, well, let's get busy. How do you work this thing?
But Oak Island is a place of secrets, and it does not give them up without a fight. They were so close. The team could feel it. The horizontal drilling from the garden shaft was underway, pushing into the mysterious Baby Blob, where the gold and silver readings were off the charts. Every person on the island was holding their breath, waiting for the moment the drill would hit something solid, something man-made. They were on the verge of solving the puzzle. That is when disaster struck. It happened without warning. A sudden violent rush of ocean water burst into the garden shaft. It wasn't a leak, it was a flood. The water poured in with terrifying speed and volume, a relentless torrent that threatened to destroy everything they had worked for. The contracting team from Dumas had to evacuate immediately. The operation was halted. The shaft, once a beacon of hope, was now a dangerous swirling vortex of seawater. The team was devastated. To lose the garden shaft after getting so far was a crushing blow. But as the shock wore off, a new chilling thought began to creep in. Was this an accident? Or had they finally triggered the legendary booby trap? For more than 200 years, stories have been told about the Money Pit being protected by an elaborate system of flood tunnels designed to fill the pit with water the moment any treasure hunter got too close. It was a story, a legend. But now, they had to wonder if it was true. The amount of water that flooded the shaft was unlike anything they had ever seen in the Money Pit area before. It couldn't be explained by the natural geology of the island. It was too much, too fast. It was as if a switch had been flipped, opening a gateway to the sea. They had accidentally hit something, and in doing so, they may have proven that the old legends were real. They now had two incredible pieces of evidence. On one hand, they had modern science telling them a treasure of gold and silver was buried deep in the ground. On the other hand, they had this catastrophic flood, an event that seemed to confirm the ancient stories of a cleverly engineered trap. The mystery of Oak Island had just become deeper and more dangerous than ever. The flood had stopped their work in the money pit, but it had also opened up a new investigation. Because if the flood tunnels were real, it meant the original depositors were even more brilliant and determined than anyone had ever imagined. With the money pit operation on hold, the team turned their attention to another part of the island that was proving to be just as mysterious. Lot 5. Located on the western side of the island, this peaceful, serene piece of land was hiding its own incredible secrets. It was a place that felt different, special, and the team was about to find out why. They had acquired the 4-acre property just 2 years earlier.
How does everybody feel about being back?
How can you not be excited?
And since then, it had produced one amazing find after another. This wasn't just a patch of woods, it was a historical site of major importance. The team had found things here that completely changed what they thought they knew about the island's past. They had found ancient structures that nobody knew existed. They had unearthed artifacts that dated back from the 1200s all the way to the 1700s, and they had found ancient coins. Lot 5 was like a time capsule. It held clues that could finally answer the biggest question of all: who was behind the Oak Island mystery? The discoveries pointed to a number of possible suspects, each more intriguing than the last. They found 4 Roman coins, some dating back as much as 2,000 years. How did Roman artifacts end up on a small island in North America centuries before Columbus? They also found a lead barter token from the 14th century. This was a huge discovery because it looked just like the lead cross they had found years before in Smith's Cove. Both artifacts could be connected to the legendary Knights Templar, the secretive order of warrior monks who some believe had the technology and the motive to build something as complex as the money pit. And there was more. They uncovered a number of old iron tools that were scientifically linked to a man named Sir William Phipps, an English politician from the 17th century. Legend says Phipps buried a massive hoard of Spanish silver in the late 1600s, and these tools might be the proof. All of these incredible finds were made in or near 2 stone foundations. One was a simple rectangle, but the other was much larger, a strange rounded feature right near the shoreline. It was unlike anything anyone had ever seen on the island. The team knew they had to investigate these structures further. The answers they were looking for might not be buried 100 feet deep in the money pit. They might be hiding just a few feet below the surface, waiting in the soil of Lot 5. The ghost of a lost city. The archaeological team, led by Laird Niven, returned to the strange stone foundations on Lot 5 with a new sense of purpose. They began to dig, carefully scraping away the layers of time. What they uncovered was stunning. The structure just kept going and going and going. It was far bigger than they ever imagined. Last year they thought they had an idea of its size, but they were wrong. The wall extended, then turned north. They followed it and it turned west again, then north again. Then as they followed it west, it curved into a perfect semicircle. It wasn't just a foundation, it was a massive, complex structure. Laird admitted he had never seen anything like it in his entire career. It was a shape that made no sense for a typical colonial building. As they uncovered more of the structure, they started to see differences in how it was built. It looked like it had been constructed in different periods. One section, a more rectangular part, looked much older. Another area was built with more skill. The rocks were fitted together more tightly with a beautiful smooth curve. It was clearly an addition, built by someone who came later. This discovery was huge. It pointed to the possibility of a multi-generational conspiracy. Were people coming back to Oak Island over many years, adding to the original work? It seemed possible. And underneath one part of the wall they found a small, carefully constructed opening. It looked like an airflow area, designed with a specific purpose in mind. What was that purpose? Was it for a fire, a forge, or something else entirely? The whole site had been filled in at some point, most likely before the discovery of the money pit in 1795. This led to a mind-blowing theory. What if the people who built the money pit lived here? What if this strange, sprawling structure was their home base, their workshop, their command center? It was the first place on the island they had found that could be the answer to where the depositors lived and worked. Because of these incredible discoveries, the entire area was designated as a special place. This meant it was a protected archaeological site. Every artifact had to be carefully recorded, noting the exact layer of soil it came from. This painstaking work was the only way to truly understand the story of the people who were here. The team knew that if they kept digging, they would find something that would blow the mystery wide open. And as it turned out, they might have already found it without even realizing it. The work on Oak Island is a testament to dedication. It is a slow, careful process, a scientific investigation into the past. But every now and then a discovery is made that sends a jolt of electricity through the entire team. As they stood on the edge of the incredible stone structure on Lot 5, they realized they might already have the key that unlocks everything. The biggest finds of the show have always been the ones that connect the island to a mysterious, powerful group from the past. The lead cross found in Smith's Cove, with its possible link to the Knights Templar, was one such find. The Roman coins, hinting at a pre-Columbian voyage, were another. The tools of Sir William Phipps, another still. Each one is a piece of a giant scattered puzzle, but the most powerful evidence remains buried deep within the money pit area. The water samples from the baby blob are not just a clue, they are a smoking gun. The test revealed high traces of gold and silver. This is not a legend or a theory, it is scientific fact. A significant amount of precious metal is, or was, located deep in the ground. The flood that stopped their work in the garden shaft, as devastating as it was, only added to this evidence. It proved that the engineering described in the legends was real. Now, standing on Lot 5, looking at a structure that seems to have been built over generations, all the pieces start to come together. Imagine a group of people, centuries ago, arriving on this island with a treasure of immense value. They build a complex settlement on Lot 5 to live and work. They then engineer one of the most ingenious and deadly vaults the world has ever known. The Money Pit, complete with booby-trapped flood tunnels. They deposit their treasure, a treasure so rich that even now, hundreds of years later, it is still leaching gold and silver into the groundwater. Then they vanish, leaving behind only whispers, legends, and a few scattered artifacts. Over the centuries, perhaps others came, people who knew the secret. Maybe they added to the structure on Lot 5 or tried and failed to retrieve the treasure themselves. The team on Oak Island is no longer just chasing a story. They are chasing the echoes of this incredible event. The gold and silver in the water are real. The flood tunnels are real. The ancient complex settlement is real. Every new discovery confirms that something of unbelievable importance happened on this tiny island. They are closer than anyone has ever been to the final truth. What if the real secret isn't buried treasure, but the people who buried it? Could this change everything we know about history? Hit like, subscribe, and tell us what you think.